नमस्सर्वेभ्यः IIT मद्रास् संस्थायाः संस्कृतसमितेः एवञ्च संत राजेन्द्र सिंह महाराज जी चेर् इत्यनयोः संस्थयोः आश्रये प्रवर्तमानमिदं मुद्राराक्षसम् अधिकृत्य प्रवचनम्. We will now take up the second act of Mudrarakshasa. In the opening act, we saw the wonderful planning of Chanakya. Vishakadatta presents the ways and means that Amatya Rakshasa employs for his own cause. His cause was the same as the cause of the Nandas, and therefore, in order to wrest from Chanakya and co. the kingdom of Pataliputra, Amatya Rakshasa makes his own efforts and is himself quite skilled in making his plans. As we can see towards the end of the act and towards the end of the play also, it is as though he is no less than Chanakya as regards his planning is concerned. But only fate was otherwise. Fate did not cooperate with him. Of course, his loyalty to the Nandas was supreme. And Chanakya knew this extraordinary quality of this person, Amatya, who, in spite of the death of the Nandas, still continued his loyalty to him. People generally go by what helps them, what is beneficial to them, what profits them, and so on. But on the other hand, he was a person who valued the Nandas even after their death and was utterly loyal to them. And it was this quality of Amatya Rakshasa that draws Chanakya to somehow make him the minister of Chandragupta, and thereby an able minister who is quite loyal to Chandragupta will be affected, and it is that which is going to ensure the safety and the security and the future of Chandragupta's regime. So the scene shifts now to the place of Rakshasa, and this is called Rakshasa Vicharaha. So the beginning of the act is with the entry of Viradhagupta, who is a spy of Rakshasa, and this Viradhagupta, as a spy, comes in the guise of a snake charmer, Ahi Tundika. Ahi in Sanskrit means the serpent, Tunda is the face, so Ahi Tunda is the face of the snake, the hood of the snake, and the person who carries on his livelihood by showing the hood of the serpent to people, which has its ever-alluring charm. So would be called Ahitundika. And he also calls himself Jirna Visha, means one who has digested the poison, which is to say, the serpents do not bite him or they do not affect him, and therefore he is above those pulls and fears. Now, the opening remarks that he makes is Chanakyamati Parigrihitam Chandraguptam Avalokya Viphalameva Rakshasa Prayatnam Avagachami. I consider that the efforts of Rakshasa are all a waste. They are all a waste because I come to this conclusion when I look at Chandragupta. So, who is now very well secured by the brilliance of Chanakya. Chanakya Mati Parigrihitam Chandraguptam Avalokya. Viphalamiva Rakshasa Prayatnam Avagachami. And it is as though Lakshmi is, that is Rajya Lakshmi, is being pulled in opposite directions by the brilliance of Chanakya and the brilliance of this Amatya Rakshasa, who he refers to the brilliance of Chanakya as the Rajju, the rope called the intelligence of Chanakya. And on the other hand, Rakshasa is also employing the four upayas, what are called Chatur upayas, namely Sama, Dana, Bheda, and Danda. So these are the four upayas, and uh, Rakshasa is trying to pull Rajyashri. So with these four upayas, and on behalf of Chandragupta, there is this Kautilya. His Dhirajju is indeed quite powerful in drawing her towards Chandragupta. So he refers to both of them with the same adjective. Anayoho buddhishaalinoho susachivayoho virodhe samshayita iva nandakula lakshmihi. We can see that he also has a good estimate of the intelligence and brilliance of Chanakya as well as that of this Amatya Rakshasa. So he refers to both of them as Buddhishalins. So they are undoubtedly brilliant. And Samshayita Yuva Rajya Lakshmihi. So Nandakula Lakshmihi. So the goddess of royalty, as it were in a state of suspense. So um, so now he goes and meets Amatya Rakshasa. He wants to go and meet Amatya Rakshasa. Um, then enters Amatya Rakshasa seated. So how is it possible for somebody to enter seated? So this is a typical stage direction in Sanskrit plays, where we also have, for example, in Shakuntala also we have enter Shakuntala seated and so on. Obviously, the another screen is open, so where this person is seen, and the person who is already speaking here, so he will be in a position uh, where he is not seen by the other person on the stage now, and therefore, even though uh, this Viradha Gupta or the snake charmer is present there, so it is as though Rakshasa is not able to see him, nor is he able to see Rakshasa. And therefore, for this also, they used to employ sometimes certain gestures of Bharatanatyam. So, as Bharata states in his Natya Shastra, so if it is to be conveyed to the audience that um, or something a person is saying is not heard by others on the stage, in plays, we often have the necessity of somebody speaking in Swagata, so to himself, so or the monologue. In such cases where the other participants, the other persons already on the stage who are not supposed to hear, so that is indicated by what is called Tripataka. So with the employment of Tripataka, then the other persons are supposed not to hear anything. So paradoxically, everybody in the auditorium, so they will all hear, but the very persons on the stage would not be able to hear. And therefore, this is a technique that is developed, and by the particular gesture that is made use of, the audience will be able to understand that nobody else on the stage is able to hear these statements. So then enters Rakshasa, and um, Rakshasa is full of worry and sorrow. And the first thing he does is that he realizes that fate is somehow not cooperative with him. Akarunaya, niyatya. So niyati or fate is akaruna. So he is merciless towards him, and therefore, whatever I do will not really bear fruit. I am on the alert all the time. Ratrin divam jagrataha. Day and night, I am on my alert. And um, all the pictures that I draw, that is, all the efforts that I make, or as it were, written on a canvas which is no canvas. So, Mama Chitra Karma Rachana Bhittim Vina Vartate. So, there is no canvas for all the pictures I draw because somehow fate is not cooperative with me. And therefore, what happened to the Vrishnis is also happening to the Nandas themselves. And the Nandas also had their own good share of Niti and Vikrama, political wisdom and valor. So they lacked in neither, and yet somehow fate is not favorable. And then I am doing all this with utmost loyalty to my predecessors, is what he says. Bhagavati Kamalalaye Bhrisham Agunajnasi. So he blames Rajyalakshmi, saying, Kamalalaye, Alaya is the Vasasthana. Lakshmi is supposed to dwell in the lotuses, and therefore Kamalalaya refers to Lakshmi. So Kamala itself in Sanskrit means Lakshmi, and as she dwells in the residence, Alaya, of the lotuses, she is also referred to as Kamalalaya. So Bhagavati Kamalalaye Brasham Gunajnasi. So you cannot recognize merits. I am not able to understand why you are so much interested in Chandragupta Maurya and not in the Nandas, even though they were, true to their name, inspirers of joy. Ananda Hetu Nandam. So disregarding him. So you are interested in Chandragupta. How is this? He addresses her as Anabhijate, a, a low-born person. So because you are not able to recognize the merits and demerits of people. So after all, Chandragupta is a low-born person and you are interested in him. Purandrinam prajna purusha guna vijnana vimukhi. So you are just averse to the very many merits of the true um, persons of merit. Avinite. So he refers to her as immodest. We can see the anger of Matya Rakshasa towards fate and towards Rajyalakshmi at every step. So he sees how um, he has made all his plans, as he spoke of just now. He is on the alert day and night. This is also a feature that Chanakya himself had. Subsequently, we come to meet a beautiful statement of Chanakya, namely that without some purpose, Chanakya would not move a finger, even in his dreams. Na prayojanamantara Chanakya swapne vicheshtate. So, for every action of Chanakya, there has to be a purpose. So, there is never a redundancy of efforts on the part of Chanakya, and he knows when to employ what effort and in what direction, and nothing that he does would go waste, and therefore he is always on the alert. So the Rakshasa is also putting forth the efforts day and night, but things are not working out very properly. Just as in the beginning of the first act, we saw Chanakya listing out the steps that he had taken, Amatya Rakshasa also makes it known to the audience as to what steps he has been taking, and therefore um, he has now um, handed over the care of the family to Chandanadasa and has himself left Pataliputra and come over, and he is now making plans. And then um, he has given a lot of money to Shakatadasa. So Mahata Kosha Sanchayena. So a good deal of uh, his treasury so has been given to Shakatadasa, and that is regarding plans for those who can finish Chandragupta. As you can see later, it was this Shakatadasa that was responsible for um, giving a good deal of money to various persons like Daruvarma and others who made an attempt on the life of Chandragupta. The what Daruvarma did to kill Chandragupta is going to become evident very shortly. So in this very act, and then he also says that he has employed his friend Jivasiddhi and others. So, and um, that is for updating him at every moment regarding the developments there. And therefore, he thinks that his efforts must yield fruits. And then there enters this uh, Kanchaki or the chamberlain. The Kanchaki is typically an old man, so a trusted friend of, a trusted employee of uh, kings. So he also says that every effort that Amatya makes, he is not going to be successful in spite of his best of efforts. Jetum na shaknoti cha. He is somehow not able to do that. So his name is Jajali. So Rakshasa bows down to him because he's a very senior person. And then um, he says he has brought some ornaments. These ornaments were sent by Prince Malaiketu to be worn by Amatya Rakshasa. Now, Malaiketu is somewhat distressed that Amatya Rakshasa is um, leading a very dull life, as it were, because he is so full of sorrow. And therefore, uh, he doesn't put on ornaments as he's always now in a melancholy mood, as his plans have not been very successful. And therefore, rather than looking dull, Amatya Rakshasa should look bright and he must pay attention to his even his dress, etc. And therefore, Imani Abharanani Kumarena Swasharira Avatirya Prishitani. So um, the ornaments were on his own person. He has sent them, and therefore, please wear them. So he has sent this request to uh, um, Rakshasa Amatya Rakshasa via Kanchikiya or the Chamberlain, and then um, the Rakshasa accepts them. Anatakramaniya vachanaha bhavanapi. So like the Nandas, I cannot go against your words. Okay, I'll accept. So in spite of himself, he accepts those ornaments and now puts them on. He says, till the Nandas are established in the Suganga assembly hall. So till then, he would not like to put on these, but then um, the persuasion of Malaya Ketu and even more importantly, the persuasion of this Kanchikiya, the Chamberlain, makes him accept those ornaments. And in fact, um, the Kanchikiya himself makes him wear this. So, not Bhushanani Paridhapya. So, he himself helps um, Rakshasa put on those ornaments. So, physically, he helps them putting them on. We can see that even this has political implications and ramifications. So it is these very ornaments of Malayaketu that a little later on we find that Siddharthaka, so who comes there saving the life of Shakatadasa apparently, so has come there and um, Amatya Rakshasa hands over some of these ornaments to that person, and even that is deployed in future for a political purpose, and therefore Amatya innocently parts with some of those ornaments, but then he ultimately is trapped in some alleged machination on his part, and therefore um, now, as the Kanchikya gives those ornaments and he makes himself So makes Amatya wear those ornaments, and the Rakshasa puts on those ornaments and goes down to um, the Kanchikiya, so Arya Abhivadaye, and then um, the Rakshasa asks his doorkeeper as to whether there is anybody waiting for an interview with him. And um, this Priyamvadaka, the gatekeeper, so he finds out that there is this snake charmer waiting to get an interview with Amatya Rakshasa. So he says there is a snake charmer by name Jirnavisha. Obviously, the Ahitundika or the snake charmer has not revealed his true name to the doorkeeper. So it is only Amatya who knows who he is in reality. And therefore, he calls himself Jirnavisha. And he says, I'm interested in showing some of my snakes to your boss. And uh, the doorkeeper, so he Priyamadaka, um, goes to Rakshasa and says that a snake charmer along with his serpents has been waiting for you, so waiting to meet you. And Rakshasa immediately feels that this itself is a sort of a negative omen. And in addition to that, there is also the throbbing of the left eye, Vamakshi Spandana. And then Katham Prathamameva Sarpadarshanam. Oh, my day has begun with seeing the serpents. So, which itself is a bad omen. Um, and he says, no, I'm not interested in seeing those serpents. Okay. That fellow must have come for some money. Okay, give him some money and send him away. And then the person, Priyamvadaka, goes to the snake charmer and says, um, our boss is not interested in meeting you. So you may please go. And then he says, I'm not merely a snake charmer. I'm a Prakrita poet also. The Prakrita language is a language is very close to the Sanskrit language. In fact, it can be said to be a sort of a lower version of the Samskrita language. Just as we have, for example, the Tamil spoken by the city-bred people and Tamil spoken by the villagers. So such is the relationship between Samskrita and Prakrita. That is why you find in Sanskrit plays the so-called higher characters, they all speak in Samskrita, and the so-called lower characters all speak in Prakrita. So each understands the other because it is the same language, and it's only a question of a sort of a higher language and a lower language, or a formal language and informal language, and so on. So we find that there is some difference like this. So um, the Prakrit language is somewhat rustic compared to the Sanskrit language, which is polished, and therefore he says, I am a Prakrita poet also. So that is to say, I compose poems, and so he sends a letter to um, the Etat Patrakam Vachayitum Prasidatu. So ask your boss to read this letter. So he takes the letter and gives it to the Rakshasa, and Rakshasa reads the letter. So, Pitva Niravashesham Kusumarasam Atmanah Kushalataya Yadudgirati Brahmaro Nyesham Karovati Tatkaryam. There is a poem there, a Prakrita poem. So, how does Prakrita read like? So, Pitva Niravashesham Kusumarasam Atmanah Kushalataya word is the Samskrita Chaya of the Prakrita, which would read Pauna Niravasesam Kusumarasam Attano Kusaladaye Yadudgirati Brahmaro Jam Uggirei Bhamaro Anyesham Karoti Tatkaryam Annanam Punai Tankajam. So this is the way Prakrita reads. So it's very close to Samskrita, and every word is a sort of an apabhramsha of the Sanskrit word. What does this shloka mean? It says that the the bee collects the nectar of the flower, kusuma rasam, atmana kushalataya, by with great skill, and it totally absorbs the essence of the flower. And however, it goes and puts it all in one place. So it emits that, and uh, this disgorging of the nectar of the flower is ultimately for the sake of others. So this is the poem that is in praise, as it were, of the Brahmara or the bee, or in a way of the pity of the Brahmara, because what all he earns is ultimately for the sake of others. But it's also indicative of some kind of sacrifice also. The idea here is that, see, the word Kusuma here refers to Kusumapura, which is another name for Pataliputra. So Patala or Patali is a flower. Patali is a flower, and Patala is its color. So um, obviously he has got some news regarding Pataliputra, so Kusumapura. So this is sort of a code language, so which he employs to indicate to Amatya that he has brought some news from Kusumapura or Pataliputra, so to be conveyed to Amatya. So all the information that he has gathered from Kusumapura is not for his own sake, but on the other hand, it is for the sake of Amatya and other key persons. And therefore, uh, Amatya is able to figure that out. Aye Kusumapura Vruttantagyaha Bhavat Pranidhihi iti Gatharthaha. So the meaning of this poem is that I am your spy who has collected information from Kusumapura. And therefore, he says, uh, he tells this person, Priyambadaka, okay, I would like to listen to this poet, and therefore please send him. So, Shrotavyam Asmat Subhashitam. I would like to listen to his good sayings. Please send him. So, Priyambadaka does so, and this snake charmer enters. And um, as soon as he enters, uh, Amatya Rakshasa recognizes him and says, Aye Viradhagupta. But he cuts his speech in the middle. Aye Viradha, he stops there. He doesn't refer to him by his full name. So he's Aye Viradha, he stops there. Ityardhokte, this is called Ardhokta. When you start to say something but don't finish it, it is called Ardhokta. So half said. Then he rectifies himself, saying, Nano Prarudha Shmashruhu. Oh, you're, uh, it is as though his name itself is Prarudha Shmashru. So literally it means one who has grown his beard very much. Prarudha Shmashru. Shmashru is the beard. Actually, the intention of Amatya Rakshasa is that he was not supposed to leak the name of this person because he is a spy, and even his own doorkeeper should not know, or his own disciple should not know who is his spy and who is not, and so on. So that is to be kept a guarded secret. And here, overwhelmed with sorrow and worries and anxiety about the future, Amatya Rakshasa is a bit careless. So, and therefore, the moment he recognizes him to be Viradhagupta, he refers to him, he addresses him as Aye Viradhagupta. But by the time he utters his name, so Viradha, so he realizes that he should not have addressed him by that name. And therefore, he stops in the middle and says Aye Viradha, Ityardhokte, and then Nanu Prarudha Shmashruhu. So, it is as though that fellow's name is Prarudha Shmashru, and therefore um, now he tells Priyamadaka. So I would like to entertain myself with some serpent that he has brought. So, okay, you please attend to your duty. I would like to speak to this fellow. So the Priyamadaka, so he exits, and then there is a conversation now between Rakshasa and Viradhagupta. So this is a pretty long conversation. So he offers him a seat, and then Viradhagupta says, um, "Do not grieve, sir, because already the pall of gloom has set on the face of Rakshasa. So because this person, Gupta, was also a trusted friend of the Nandas, and um, Amatya Rakshasa is so full of sorrow that persons who were dependent upon Nanda are now in a very bad position, and therefore, um, actually, Amatya Rakshasa has begun to shed tears. He cries, Iti Roditi, and Gupta consoles him, saying, Amatya, alam shokena, नाथिचिरात् अमात्यः अस्मान् पुरातनीम् अवस्थाम् आरोपयिष्यति. We all have confidence that you will, in a very short duration, restore us all to our original position. So he exudes confidence that Amatya Rakshasa will be able to rectify things and take the kingdom back from the hands of Chandragupta and Chanakya. And then Rakshasa asks him, Varnaya Kusamapura Vrittantam, please tell me the developments in Kusamapura, because that verse itself indicated that he has brought some information from Kusamapura, and therefore he wants to know um, what are all the happenings in Kusamapura after his exit from that place. So Rakshasa had um, run away from that place to save his own life first, to to work for um, restoring the kingdom of the Nandas, and therefore he had come out there, leaving his family with Chandanadasa, and therefore he wants to get to know the news of the developments in Kusumapura after his exit. So he says um, he wants to know what happened to people whom he had employed to poison Chandragupta and others. And then Viradagupta starts with a longer background. He says, you know that Chandragupta and Chanakya had taken the help of people so who are Shaka, Yavana, Kirata, Kamboja, Parasika, Balhika, Prabhativihi. So these are half a dozen kings and their kingdoms. So the help of all these people was invoked by Chanakya, and arraigning themselves against the Nandas. So all these had attacked this capital, Kusumapura. Chanakya Mati Parigrihitaihi. All these had been um, made into a unit by Chanakya, by the brilliance of Chanakya. And then Chandragupta and Parvateshwara had joined hands, and um, they all had attacked Kusumapura. And then the moment he says that Rakshasa is, his ire is roused, and he draws his sword and utters some angry words. Maisthite kaha Kusumapuram uparodhyati. So, and um, he speaks of the archers and the tuskers and so on. So all those old memories have welled up in his mind. And then Viradagupta reminds him that I'm only referring to a past event. All those events are over. So Rakshasa says that he could not um, uh, understand that it was all past event that he was referring to, and it had all come alive for him. And therefore he was responding to that as though they were all present there. And he remembers how the Nanda kings used to entertain Rakshasa's help for each and every step, at each and every step. So, for example, when there was this warfare going on, the Nandas would give directions. So, um, here is uh, a host of elephants, so dark as the clouds. Oh, Rakshasa, you must go there. And then uh, he is a mass of horses. So it's like a great flood advancing, and Rakshasa must take care of this. And then here are soldiers on foot, so whom the Rakshasa must lead, and so on and so forth. Such were the commands that used to be given by the Nanda king, and Um, it is as though there were 1,000 Rakshasas, and therefore, at each and every step, the Nandas would ask for the Rakshasas' help, and it is on his brilliance and his um, manipulative powers that the Nandas depended very much, and that he recalls. So those situations he recalls. And Viradagupta now continues with the story, and he says that when Kusumapuram was thus besieged by uh, Chanakya and Chandragupta and the other forces that they had gathered, then um, Sarvartha Siddhi, he could not bear with all this, and therefore, what he thought was that the best thing for him was to escape from the city, and he ultimately goes for tapas, and therefore, um, through a subterranean path, it's called Suranga. So, through that Suranga, Sarvata Siddhi goes to a Tapovana, and then the forces of um, Malayaketu, of Parvateshwara, they have all become very weak now, and in the absence of the leader, they are all running helter-skelter, and therefore, mm, when Amatya himself had to escape through the subterranean path, Suranga, and when Parvateshwara had been felled, so he was continuing, even as he is continuing, the Rakshasa makes one remark, Sakhe Pashya Ascharya. Look at this great wonder. Uh, I am reminded of the story of the Mahabharata. In the story of Mahabharata, there was this Karna who had this Shakti Ayudha, which he had reserved for destroying Arjuna, his arch enemy. And that Ayudha could be employed but once on one person. And the situation of uh, the warfare with Ghatotkacha that made its own demands. And Karna had to deploy that Shakti Ayudha against Ghatotkacha, and thereby it was lost. So it could no more be used against Arjuna. So has it been here. In this case, I had employed that Vishangana or Vishakanya, and she could be employed but once. So she will be able to destroy one person, poison one person with her embrace or intercourse with her. Eka Purusha Vyapadini. So I had uh, protected her, and that was um, meant to destroy Chandragupta. But like Vishnu, this Vishnu Gupta has acted. Vishnu refers to Lord Krishna there in the Mahabharata story. And like that Krishna, so this brilliant Vishnu Gupta Hataka, so this wretched Vishnu Gupta, so he saw to it that the person to be killed was himself, the person who was targeted. So ultimately, himself made to kill the person. And therefore, ultimately, it was King Parvataka who was killed by Vishakanya rather than Vishakanya killing Chandragupta. And therefore, everything has turned topsy-turvy. We can see here that the comparison between Vishnu and Vishnugupta, though it has come in the mouth of the Rakshasa, is itself very significant because ultimately the role of Lord Vishnu is also the sustenance of the world. And even the arrival of Vishnugupta on the scene, that is Chanakya, at a moment where there was immense dharma glani. So it was like the very avatar of the Lord. And it was he who could restore a sense of wisdom and a sense of propriety and perspective to the people. And with his great skills and wisdom, could ensure the establishment of dharma. And anyhow, for Rakshasa, it's only this part of the comparison that is significant for him, namely that in the case of Karna, the employment of Shaktayudha was intended to be used against Arjuna, his greatest foe. But on the other hand, it had to be spent in the case of Ghatotkacha. And even so, this Vishakanya, who was to be employed to killing Chandragupta, was now lost in the killing of Parvateshwara, and therefore the person to be saved was the person who got killed. And Viradagupta consoles him, saying, Amatya, Daivasyatra Kamacharaha. So it is fate that is ruining everything. So Daivasyatra Kamacharaha Kim Kriyatam. And then Viradagupta continues. Then, when upon the death of the father, Malayaketu, the son of Parvataka, was himself scared, and um, he removed himself from that place. So he ran away from Kusumapura. And then Chanakya was intelligent enough to um, convince Vairochaka, the brother of Parvataka. So, and he also made an announcement that alongside Chandragupta, so he would enter the palace, and um, good arrangements were made for the celebration of this, the conquest of Kusumapura, and now this person is also going to be given half his kingdom, and so on and so forth. And therefore, Samvatsarika Adeshat, as per the directions given by the astrologers, Samvatsarika is the astrologer. So the program of the entry into the palace by Chandragupta, accompanied by this Vairochaka, the brother of Parvataka, this was to be effected exactly at midnight. So that is the indication given by the astrologers. And Chandraguptasya Nanda Bhavana Pravesho Bhavishyati. Along with this Vairochaka, Chandragupta was to enter. And then Chanakya gave the indication that starting from the Puradwara, the eastern entrance, so all decorations should be made. And then he was told that arrangements had already been begun there. And then there was this person by name Daruvarma. So, as we have known, he is an employee of Rakshasa, and therefore Kanakatorana Nyasadivihi Samskara Visheshahi. He had prepared a golden arch, and the first royal entry, the royal gate, so was thus decorated by him. And we are going to make arrangements in the interiors because the main gate has already been decorated by this Daruvarman, and the remaining of the decoration task we will take up, said the other carpenters, etc. And the moment Chanakya got to hear of this, he thought, Anadishtena iva sutradharena daruvarmana samskritam rajabhavana dwaram. With no command given to do this task, this fellow has done the arrangement at the main gate. And he declared, um, appreciating the efficiency of Daruvarman. Achiradasya dakshasya anurupam phalam adhiganishyasi Daruvarman. O Daruvarman, you are going to soon reap the benefit of your immense efficiency. So you will very soon get the benefits of that. Obviously, Chanakya could easily suspect that if some worker at some key point is doing some work without any specific command from the boss, then there is something to be read into this. And therefore, he knew that there was the hand of the loyalists of the Rakshasas and the loyalists of Rakshasa and the Nandas. And therefore, he suspected that there is some mischief here. And therefore, he was now very careful. So, Aphalam anishtaphalam va daruvarmanaha prayatnam avagachami. Rakshasa says, okay, if Chanakya has spotted this, then um, the efforts of this Daruvarman will be either fruitless or going to yield a negative result. So it's only one of the two, aphalam or anishtaphalam va. This can only be the result of the efforts of this Daruvarman. And um, um, Chanakya has now become all the more careful. And then when the entry was to be made midnight, Ardharatra Samaye, Chandraguptasya Nandabhavana Praveshaha Bhavishiti, and therefore he has now he has informed all the carpenters and sculptors and so on. So what Chanakya did was, in that very moment, he made Vairochaka sit in the very seat of Chandragupta. Vairochakam ekasane Chandraguptena saha upaveshya. So along with Chandragupta, he was seated, and the division of kingdom was also made. So in order to appear that he has honored the alliance of this person, so Vairochaka, so he has given the share of his kingdom, and therefore Ardharajya Vibhaga, Prithvi Rajya Vibhaga, so was done. Therefore, the kingdom was now shared, and therefore um, this way he has exonerated himself, and therefore nobody can now suspect that Parvataka was indeed got killed by Chanakya, and therefore Rakshasa calls him Niyatam Ati Dhurtena Chanakya Bhutana Tasyapi Tapasvinaha Kamapi Upamshu Vadham Akalaya Parvateshwara Vinashena Jenitam Ayashaha Pramashtam. So, not to remove the infamy caused by the killing of Parvateshwara. So that this has been done by this Ati Dhurtena Chanakya Bhatuna, this wily Chanakya Bhatu. So there must have been a good amount of age difference between Amatya and Chanakya, and therefore he always refers to Chanakya as Chanakya Bhatu. So this brat Chanakya, this wily brat, Ati Dhurtena Chanakya Bhatuna. So Upamshuvadha is secret murder. So therefore, let not people suspect that this has been got done by Chanakya. And therefore, in order to convince people that he has been impartial and that he has only been very positive in his approach, Chanakya has um, given half the kingdom to this person, Vairochaka. And then at the moment of the entry, there were some dramatic developments. So what Chanakya did was, so suspecting that there was going to be an attempt on the life of Chandragupta, he made this person, Vairochaka, sit on the elephant of Chandragupta. So the name of the elephant is Chandralekha, a she elephant. And um, this person, Vairochaka, was so laden. He was not only given the crown, he has put on the crown, and it is full of gems and beads and so on. And then he is himself so very much covered by his person is covered by so many flowers and all that. So by garlands and flowers and so on, that ultimately the net effect was that even those who knew this person, Vairochaka, very well, could hardly recognize him. So, because he had put on the garb of Chandragupta and was riding the elephant of Chandragupta, people there, that is, this Daruvarman and others, so who wanted to make an attempt on the life of Chandragupta by letting fall the arch, they thought that this must be Chandragupta only. And even though they knew Vairochaka rather well. So at this moment where it was midnight, first of all, and secondly, he was coming on the elephant of Chandragupta himself and just dressed quite like Chandragupta, and because of the abundance of the garlands and the beauty of the the crown and other ornaments that he was wearing and all that. So it was impossible for even those who knew intimately this Vairochaka they could hardly recognize him. Parichita tamaihi api anabhignayamana akatau. So they could not recognize that this was this person. And then Chandragupta's followers were also following that elephant. And then what happened was when Vairochika was entering, uh, then this uh, Daruvarman, the carpenter, he thought this person must be Chandragupta, and therefore he readied the main arch to fall on this person, on Chandragupta. And when the followers of Chandragupta were there, so were following this elephant and all that, um, the the mahout on the elephant of Chandragupta, so by name Barbaraka. So he's also a person who is uh, in the employ of Rakshasa. So even the mahout of Chandragupta was a spy of Rakshasa, and his name is Barbaraka. And then he had concealed in his Kanakadandika, in his golden staff, he had concealed a sword in that Kanakadandika, golden staff, and he suddenly drew out that sword. So, and um, the moment he drew out that sword, then, of course, even as the story goes, Rakshasa realizes that both the people, that is Daruvarman and this Barbaraka, have um, made premature attempts, and therefore Ubhayoho api asthane yatnaha. They have acted when they should not have acted. So even as Rakshasa realizes that, Viratagupta continues the story and says that even as he drew the sword out, so that was to make an attempt on the life of Chandragupta. So the elephant got confused. It got scared because it was a long sword and somebody in front of the elephant, drawing that sword. So that made it very scared, and therefore it began to move very speedily, and um, therefore this created a good deal of confusion. And um, even as the elephant moved there, the arch fell. So, and uh, this fellow thought that it was Chandragupta himself, and as that arch did not kill him, he tried to attack Chandragupta himself. So there is this Vairochaka. He mistook Vairochaka to be Chandragupta, and then he made an attempt on his life. And then Vairochaka was thus killed, even as he was on the elephant, and therefore the arch fell, and ultimately Vairochika it was that was got killed. So Rakshasa says, Kashtam anarthadvayam apatitam. So a twin anartha has befallen us. So two disasters have befallen us, namely Nahatas Chandragupta. Chandragupta was not killed, and Hatau Vairochaka Barbarakau Daivena. Now, in this confusion, what happened was when he uh, drew the sword out at Barbaraka, so uh, the followers of Chandragupta, that is uh, the followers who were following the elephant, they attacked him and they finished him. And therefore, Vairochaka Barbarakau, Daivena, so both of them were killed. And then Atha Sutra Daruvarma Katham. And how about Daruvarma? And he says the followers, the foot soldiers, they attacked him and they hit him with bricks and killed him. So, and thus we have lost three persons, he says. That is, Daruvarma has been now been killed, Vairochaka, the brother of Parvateshwara, has been killed, and this Barbaraka who drew the sword out. So he has also been killed. And he asks about the doctor. So one doctor by name Bhayadatta. So Bhishaja Abhayadattena, what did he do? Um, he says he did everything, and Rakshasa thinks that he must have made his attempt on the life of Chandragupta. So Virada Gupta says, no, he was not killed. Um, what exactly happened? Now, this Dr. Abhayadatta, what he has done is he has made a yoga churna, which is mishritam, vishamishritam, aushadham. So, yoga churna is the visha, and vishamishritam aushadham, the it is a poison mixed medicine, and he offered this to Chandragupta, and Chanakya took that in a golden cup, and the moment it was put in the golden cup, it attained a different color. Kanaka bhajane varnantaram upalabhya. And then immediately Chanakya suspected that this must be a poisoned item. And therefore, he instructed Chandragupta not to drink that. Rakshasa says, Shatah Kalusau Botuhu, who is this Chanakya is very shrewd. And then uh, Chanakya made that doctor drink that potion, and the doctor himself died instantaneously. So, aho mahan vijnana rashihi uparatah. So this person had a good deal of scientific knowledge, and he has died. And what happened to Pramodaka? Rakshasa had employed another person, Pramodaka. So you can see how many people the Rakshasa had also employed, just as Chanakya has quite a few persons who are with Amatya Rakshasa. For example, even the Jivasiddhi is an employee of Chanakya, so whom the Rakshasa trusts. Now here you can see how in the case of Chandragupta himself, some of the persons who are closest to him, so they are all loyal to Amatya Rakshasa, and therefore um, here is one person by name Pramodaka. So, and he was in charge of the bedroom, and so Shayanadhikrita is in charge of the bedroom. Now, this fellow had a lot of money. That he had been given a lot of money by Amatya Rakshasa, and he began to spend it in a lavish manner. And this roused the suspicion of Chanakya. And so he summoned this fellow and began to cross-examine him. So Kutoyum Bhuyan Dhanagamaha. Where did he get all this much of money? And um, there are contradictions in what he in the statements that he made, and therefore Chanakya could easily find out that this person is in the employ of Rakshasa, and therefore Vichitra Vadhena Vyapajita, he was killed with a lot of torture. So Rakshasa is very sorry. Kathamatrapi Daivena Upahatavayam. So every person that Rakshasa has employed is thus dying. And he asks about one more person by name Bibhatsaka. So he was actually in charge of this bedroom further, and therefore um, he was to have attacked Chandragupta when he was asleep. So Shaitasya Chandraguptasya Shrire Prahartam. So what happened to this person, Bibhatsaka, who had an underground arrangement close to the bedroom of Chandragupta. So his name is Bibhatsaka. And what happened to him? Virada says a horrible thing happened. What's it? Even as Chandragupta entered the bedroom, Chanakya was very careful. So, Pravishtamatrenaiva Nipunam Avalokayata. He looked very carefully about what is happening there, and he could see that there was a line of ants there with rice in their mouth, cooked rice in their mouth. And immediately Chanakya concluded that there are persons who are already living there in this house, so in the underground or whatever, and therefore um, Chanakya simply set fire to that Shayanagraha or the bedchamber of Chandragupta, and all these persons, Bibhatsaka, and there are a few more. So the room was so full of smoke that they did not even know where the exit was, and therefore they all died there. So Rakshasa says, Pashya Daiva Sampadam Duratmanaha Chandragupta Hatakasya. So look at the Daiva Sampat or the positive luck of Chandragupta, because every effort that I make bears its result, positive result for Chandragupta. Mauryasyaiva phalanti pashya vividha shreyamsi man nitayaha. So every one of my niti is bearing fruit in a positive manner towards Chandragupta, and um, every person that I employ to to kill Chandragupta, so he is killed by the very means by which he was to kill Chandragupta. So this is the horrendous situation with us, he says. So we have come to about half of the, or a little more than the half of the second act. So in the next talk, we will continue the second act and then move to the third act. Thank you
Thank
for
you, sir.
listening. Sarvebhyah
Thank you.
namaskara.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture on Mudra Rakshasa series, Mudra Rakshasa play. So it was a very interesting play. As you can observe, like as the play goes on, there will be a lot of suspense things which comes out. So thank you, sir. So we request all of the attendees to bring more people, to bring their friends, so that this event will be a success. Thank you.
Hariganesh, what you're speaking is not being heard, not by me at least.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for this wonderful lecture. So we
I'm
request.
not hearing anything.
Kannanji, are
Probably
you
you have to
able to hear
unmute
me?
your mic.
Kannanji, are you able to hear me? No, that means
I
Kannanji is
can
not
hear
able to
you,
hear,
but
I think.
I've heard everybody.
Yeah. I am also able to hear everyone. Kannanji is not able to hear. Perhaps some mic issue with him. Kannanji is not able to hear, so I don't know why.
Yeah, I am now able to hear. Please repeat if I have missed whatever was said this long, because the speaker here was off. So, yeah, please.
Yeah. Actually, I requested all people to bring their friends and all to the next lecture also, sir. So that was the request made by me. And Mrs. Nandini has a question. She has raised her hand. So,
Okay.
Mrs. Nandini, can you please unmute your mic and speak?
Can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me?
Madam, your voice is very feeble. It's very low.
Oh,
Better type the question.
Yeah, please type the question, madam.
oh, but it is too lengthy. It's too many no points. So not able to hear, sir.
Now it
Now,
is better,
now it is okay.
but you can be a little bit louder, perhaps.
Okay. Sir, Kannan sir, can you hear me?
No, I'm not able to hear. You better type out the question on the chat box or some such thing.
Or let her ask, we'll try to translate.
Okay, sir. Okay, I'll do it then later. It's okay. Do it later.
No, I'm not able to hear anything. It's too full of
Uh,
echo. Okay, fine. I'll do it later. That's fine.
Nandini madam, you can message us. I think you'll be having our number, as well as you're in the Sanskrit Samiti group also, announced group. So you can message, or you can leave a voice message in the WhatsApp group. So that Kandan sir can answer you. If you message any one of us, either myself or Ashish, we will convey the question to Kandan sir and we'll get the answers from him. Yeah.
If it is a
Thank
slightly long question, she can type and send it. You can take it up next time. No problem.
Yes.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes, madam. Yes.
No, I'm in another system.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have two fundamental questions, sir. One is the Amatya, who was very loyal to the Nandas, and even in this today's class, he said, he was saying, Deva Swarga Gadobi Shastrava Vadhena Aradhitah Syat Iti. So he even I'm not interested in riches or fame or anything, but I'm doing this respect, homage to the dead Nandas, at least by killing the Shatru, that is the Chandragupta. And again he is scolding the Rajalakshmi. It is good if you had gone away with Nanda. If you also would have done like Sati with Nanda, why did you go to that low what is that Ajnata Kula Shila Maurya Chandragupta? So such a person who is he is very much loyal to Chandragupta. Still, I am not able to understand how Chanakya thought that he will be loyal to this new person. I mean Chandragupta also. That is one question, sir. Second question, can see all these tricks done by Amatya is failed. That's what we had seen in this chapter, in this Anga. So can we say that the spies of Amatyas were not intelligent enough in executing these Amatya's plans? Or is it that is this the reason for the failures of the Amatya's plans? That is, the spies were not intelligent enough to execute it. Or is it that Amatya himself was not as intelligent as Chanakya? Or did Chanakya realize that even Abhaya Datta, who was the doctor for this person, this Chandragupta, when he was appointed as a doctor to Chandragupta, did Chanakya not know that, or did he not have the intelligence to know that he is actually a spy of Rakshasa? So, which is Rakshasa is more intelligent, or the spies are not intelligent? If the Amatyas are not, if the Amatya is not able to choose his spies properly, if he is not efficient to choose his spies, good ones, so that they will not fail, how can Chanakya expect that such a person will be good in executing the role of a minister in Chandragupta? Yes, these are my questions, sir.
May I answer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, the non-cooperation of Adrishta or Vidhi in the case of Amatya Rakshasa comes in the form of the inefficiency of the spies. Okay. It is not that they were not good spies and good agents of Rakshasa. However, sometimes at a crucial moment, some intelligence fails on their part. And this happens in the case of even wise and intelligent people. At a crucial moment, their intelligence fails them and they would decide a wrong step to be a right step then. And therefore, this comes as a consequence of bad luck. Okay. So, this is the point in saying that fate is against me. Number one. Number two, um, regarding how did Chanakya not know that this Abhayadatta was a spy of Rakshasa? So obviously these spies and agents do not write their identity, see, upon their forehead or upon their crown or whatever, upon their dress. So it's certainly not easily visible. The agents usually behave in a very friendly and loyal manner to the person whom they are serving and whom they want to kill. And therefore, it is not easily known. So, whether a person is genuine or is an agent of the enemy camp, it happens even today also. So, we can never know whether so and so is a good friend of us or is an enemy's agent. So, it's only when you get some evidence that you can suspect that this person may not be a truly loyal person. And that is why in the case of Daruvarman, the moment Chanakya could see that, could notice that he had made the arrangement in spite of the absence of the formal announcement and the proper instruction to be formally given. So in spite of that, he had taken up some step. It is then that Chanakya could easily suspect that this person must be an agent. And this happens in both cases. So there is already this Jivasiddhi who is planted there with Rakshasa, and he can never suspect that he is Chanakya's agent. So also Siddharthaka will shortly meet him. So Siddharthaka is from the side of Chanakya only, and who goes and stays with Rakshasa and is able to impress him and convince him that he is a very genuine person who is loyal to Rakshasa, and therefore Rakshasa trusts him, and therefore he has him by his side. So he becomes a good friend of a trusted friend of Rakshasa. And therefore, this is always there. So it's not easily possible to find out. Uh, so there are people who double cross also that we find. See, even in modern espionage, we find such situations and so on. Therefore, it's not always possible to see that. And coming to the first question that you asked, how could Chanakya be confident of the loyalty of Rakshasa towards Chandragupta when his wholehearted loyalty is exhibited to be towards the Nandas? So, how is it possible? Now, perhaps I can give you the analogy of what happened with the British. Now, when the Mughals came and occupied us and the Britishers ruled over us, what did they do? They employed our own people and direct them against our own people. So the police and the army were all Indians, and they all had this quality of Swami Bhakti. So whoever pays them, whoever is able to sustain their life, they would remain utterly loyal to them. It is said that uh, Mahatma Gandhi made the statement that compared to the population of India when the British came, if all the people here had just spit at the British would have been drowned in the amount of the spit of the individuals here. So, such a vast country, so many people, and it is said that at any given point of time, there were hardly 15,000 British who were there in the entire country consisting of crores of people. Now, how did they come to rule us? The point is essentially this, that in our country, Swaministha or Swami Bhakti was considered a very great virtue. And whoever gave you shelter, whoever gave you food, you must remain loyal to that person. And therefore, when the Mughals came, so if they employed our own army people, so the people of the army of the previous king as their employee, now they would shift their loyalty to this king. So it is said that, for example, in the context of the world wars, more number of Indian soldiers had died, so died than say even the British soldiers. So they were fighting for the sake of the British. On the other hand, if they had all made up their mind to rise against the British, they could have finished them in no time. However, this feature of Swaministha sometimes it works both ways, and therefore one must always have a profounder perspective regarding what is dharma and what is not dharma, and it is then that one should employ the other virtues in service of the more fundamental cause of what is dharma. Otherwise, our own virtues become the vices, and instead of saving us, they will drown us. That is why it is said, "Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha." So, when we have a clear perception of what is the more important thing in life and care for that, it is that which can protect us. And otherwise, if you are merely paying attention to uh, lower virtues they nevertheless are, but in the category of values, the hierarchy of values, if they occupy a very low place, and uh, if you adhere to them at the cost of the more fundamental value of life, then your perspective regarding the axiology or the scheme of values is topsy-turvy, and therefore a minor virtue is going to drown you instead of going to save you. And therefore, a clear understanding of what is more important is definitely considered significant. Now, for example, our own people are fooled by Christians so very easily. So the Christian priests would play a simple trick on, for example, villages. They would come and throw a piece of beef in a river, and then or in a pond, and then tell all people there that you are all fallen from dharma because this river or pond had a piece of beef, and therefore you are all polluted now, and therefore your Hindu gods won't save you, and it's only Christian God that can save you, and so on. They were all Many of them were confused and they did not know what to do, and they considered that they had committed a great sin, and therefore their only salvation was through these Christian missionaries and so on. So people can get confused. So unless their fundamentals are very strong and very clear, then these types of confusions can happen. And even so, regarding the loyalty to one's own boss, so unless there is a clear perception of what is dharma and what is not dharma, then this problem can be there. But anyhow, Chanakya knew very well that in the case of Amatya Rakshasa, this quality of loyalty to the master was very strong in him, and therefore, once he is made to accept Chandragupta's ministership, he will ever remain loyal to Chandragupta, because see, in the case of the Nandas, they were all gone. So not a trace left. Even that Savartha Siddhi was finished. And therefore, there was no question of any of the Nandas remaining. So to whom some loyalty could be shown. And ultimately, he was, Amatya Rakshasa was constrained to be loyal to Chandragupta, also on account of the cost of Chandanadasa's life and so on. And once he made a promise, he would ever abide by that promise. So this much Chanakya had a very good assessment of in regard to Rakshasa, and therefore he was confident that once Amatya Rakshasa is made the minister of Chandragupta, then things will be fine.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Namaskar.
Namaste, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Can I ask a short question, or is it time?
Please.
Yeah. So can we say that the ideal kept in our culture of moksha is too high as compared to the ideal placed in other organized religions like Christianity and Islam, where commitment to a certain set of rules and an individual is given as the ultimate?
Okay.
So the moksha ideal is too high and abstract. Can that be the reason why? Because many people shifted, they said, okay, let us be loyal to this God instead of that God. So God means in this case a prophet.
Okay. What exactly is your question?
The ideal of moksha in Hinduism is too high.
The ideal of moksha is too high, and therefore
Converting out is easier.
Whereas other religions have kept a somewhat achievable ideal of a commitment to a person and his or her, a diktat.
Okay. Now, that's once again because our people did not make a proper study of the kinds of approaches other people had, other religions had. Okay. So it was very much a part of intellectual pursuits to get to know who your enemies are. So unless you get to know, unless you are able to identify your enemies, then you can never do anything. You will never take a careful step. The first thing that every animal teaches its young one is, number one, where it can get its food to survive, and number two, what are the dangers for its life so that it can survive. So these two things are regularly taught by every creature to its young one. But in Hinduism, this did not happen. So we were unable to identify the enemy. So if the enemy could speak some soft words and kind words, we would get deluded by that. So that way, so our understanding of the true value of dharma had become so diluted and so superficial that we could get easily trapped. And there are cases of many Muslims who came and attacked us, and when defeated, would come would ask for Sharanagati and would come as Sharanagatas and surrender and so on. And immediately our king would give Abhaya. So thinking of Rama and Krishna and others who had done some similar deed, and therefore Abhaya Pradana was considered a very great thing, and he was spared a life. So without keeping a watch on what he was going to do next, so that fellow would invariably inspire confidence, and after some time he would ditch them, and therefore one has to be always on the guard. So this was the method of Chanakya, and this was the method of Krishna, in fact, also. And therefore, one must be really very careful. And even regarding the values of life also, there was a good deal of confusion. And if only our people had made it an important thing to study, for example, the Bible and the Quran, then they could have found out their tricky ways. So on the other hand, their greatest Purvapaksha was Buddhism and Jainism. Okay. After all, they are also our own religions, Indic religions they are. And for a long time, say till about the 12th century or so, we never had any kind of civilizational attack. So because India was well protected by nature, the seas on three sides and the mountains on the top and so on. Therefore, India was very well protected, and we never had those problems. And therefore, we had never thought of any civilizational attack. But with Islam and Christianity, such attacks came, and um, our own people could not realize, because one must study. See, the way, for example, Westerners study each and every minormost aspect of Hinduism as well as of other religions and other countries and so on. Even so, one must make it a point to study, and it is here that our pundits and in general our ethos, so it failed. And therefore, while considering the value of moksha, or the importance of moksha in one's life, so everything is indeed taken care of. So, in fact, there are two schemes. So one is of Trivarga and another is of Chaturvarga. When we say it is Trivarga, it is Dharma, Artha and Kama only, where the value of moksha is absorbed in Dharma itself. Or if you want to spell it out as four, so then moksha is considered separate. So moksha is never excluded. So while following Dharma, there are issues of what is a more important dharma and what is a less important dharma, what is a social dharma, what is a personal dharma. All these categories are there. And because our Dharmashastra-karas were not confronted by these civilizational attacks, so our Dharmashastra texts do not have guidelines for these things. And therefore, in updating Dharmashastras, this was to be considered very important, where we failed. And therefore, we thought that the pursuit of moksha would be something that goes inimical to or gets indifferent to the pursuit of our worldly welfare and say positive achievements. This is where we failed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can we stop here, Hari Ganesh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can stop here, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Namaskar, everybody.